attention, please. Thank you guys for being here today with us. My name is Kristen Gione, and I'm the marketing manager for the Center for Distance Education. But we're really excited about our topic today. This will be our final lunch and learn of the semester, and it is on social media and students. So we're going to go at it from two angles today. We have Dr. Emily Riles, who is an assistant professor with the Department of Communication and Gender Studies program. So she's going to come at it from more of a faculty perspective, which is really exciting, and I think a lot of faculty would like to get maybe some of her tips and tricks that she's doing. And then we also have our communication specialist, Nikki Harper, here within the center. She runs all of our social media accounts for distance education, and then she also helps our distance departments in either setting new accounts up, helping them once they have it going. And so if you have a distance program or distance courses, she is a huge resource that you can use, and there's no charge. So you've got somebody right here in-house that can help you if you have a distance program. So restrooms are down the hall to the left. If you need that, please get up, and I'm going to turn it over.
Thank you. Hi. My name is Emily. I am an assistant professor of communication and gender studies. It occurred to me that it was this morning that it was really stupid that I did not include some of my social media information on this slide. So if you're interested, I am on Twitter and Instagram at MSU Prof Riles, so MSU PROF Riles. And I mention those two in particular because those are kind of my professional accounts, and those are the accounts that I use with my students. So if there's some things that I'm talking about today that sound kind of interesting and you want to go on into my accounts and see how those are operating, that's where you can find me. And of course, if you have questions, feel free to email me. So today I'm going to talk specifically about how you might use social media in your classroom with your students. So social media as a pedagogical tool. And I want to start by potentially assuaging some concerns that you might have. I think there are a lot of concerns about using social media in the classroom, but the one I tend to hear the most often is that we're teaching millennials, right? And millennials are digital natives, as they've been labeled, meaning that many of us are afraid that they know social media better than us, right? That they'll show us up. Let me assure you that's true. Absolutely. But it doesn't matter, right? You're not teaching them how to use the social media. The social media is a tool for them to grasp your course content. So it's okay if they know more. And my students are constantly teaching me new things on social media. And a lot of the things that they're teaching me actually make my life easier when it comes to grading the work and things that we're doing. So don't worry about it if you are new to social media. I actually only joined Facebook less than a year ago. And here I am now teaching you how to do that. I don't suppose that necessarily helps assuage your concerns, but give me a few minutes. So I'm going to talk about some benefits of using social media, why you might do this. Go briefly over the different types of social media and apps that your students are probably already on or that I found particularly useful. And then I've got some assignments that I've done that I'll talk you through very briefly that I think are kind of adjustable to different types of classes as well. So it doesn't really have to be just the types of classes that I'm teaching. And I'll try to get through all of those. Again, if I don't, feel free to email me and I'm happy to share those with you. Okay, so some of the benefits. First, you're meeting students where they are. Our students are already embedded in this technology, right? You can't avoid it. It's obnoxious, but it's the reality. And so meeting them where they are means that you get to bring your course content to them in a place where they're already comfortable. There is this real-world applicability aspect that I think is very important. One of the things I'm always trying to do as a professor is convince my students that my course content has some validity or is important to the real world, and doing this on social media has proven to be really valuable. Obviously, there are sites like LinkedIn that are professional sites, right? It's all about when they get their jobs, so there's clear applicability there. But even beyond that, one of the things that I found really great about using Facebook and Twitter is that students will often post current events that reminded them of class. So this thing came across my feed, let me post it to our Facebook group so that my colleagues can see it as well. Now this was happening before as well, but the students would just email it to me directly. I would maybe post it on my courses, maybe a couple of people would check it out. Doing it on social media has really expanded that. So they're seeing those direct connections. A third benefit is that you can foster communication between past and present students, as well as between students across universities. So in my gender communication class, we all get on Twitter and we use the hashtag CO4263, the course. What happens is that when I teach it every spring and we start up that hashtag again, students who took the class a year ago see the hashtag and they start joining in on the conversation. So you're connecting students who have taken the class in the past as well as those in the present. And something I think that's also really exciting is that you can start connecting your students with students at other universities. So I'm going to talk to you in a little bit about an assignment I did where my students did an activity alongside another group of students at the University of San Diego. And so we had students of different races and ethnicities, socioeconomic backgrounds, religions, connecting in these ways that potentially they would never have had the opportunity to do. You can better understand and connect with your students. Listen, there are absolutely times when things come across my Twitter feed that I wish I had not seen, right? There is that risk of potentially seeing things about your students you didn't want to see. But you absolutely get to know about your students in a way that you just can't in the classroom. I really felt like I had great relationships with my students in the classroom. Joining these sort of Facebook groups has expanded that incredibly. And I want to emphasize once again here, right? My Facebook is entirely private. I only use it for closed Facebook groups. So it's not like I'm just free-falling, joining in on all the fun with the students, right? You can still kind of maintain this professional distance, but you get to know them in different ways and connect with them in different ways that I think can really erase the hierarchical structure of a classroom, right? Really kind of flatten that out. Research has shown that students feel a greater sense of community and belonging. Now, much of the research on using social media in the classroom has been on MySpace, which is completely gone at this point, right, and Facebook, because we all know how long it takes to get published. So by the time you're published, it's already over. But on Facebook, at least, students have talked about feeling closer to their classmates as a result of the Facebook page. And this really goes right along with students feeling more comfortable. The Facebook page for a lot of people, the closed Facebook group for a lot of people, functions in the same way that like our My Courses tool might. So the things that you're doing on My Courses, you can actually do in Facebook. Students don't connect Facebook to school in the way that they do My Courses, and so they feel more comfortable. They feel like it's a place where they're hanging out as opposed to a place where they're going to do work. And lastly, they're much more comfortable voicing their opinions. In my own experiences, I can tell you that students who do not speak at all during class will post often in Facebook, so you're connecting with those students in a way that you couldn't have done in the classroom. Some of the research hypothesizes that even though the professor is in that Facebook group, is sort of lurking there, that the students don't feel that level of surveillance that they do in a regular classroom, and as a result feel more comfortable sharing and talking about their opinions. So those are some of the benefits and some of the reasons that you might consider using social media in your classroom. These are some of the social networking sites that I recommend and apps that I recommend. I'm going to talk quite a bit about Facebook and Twitter. Tumblr is great. I have seen other faculty use it extremely well. I cannot for the life of me figure it out. So if there is a Tumblr expert in the room, please see me. I would love to use it. I haven't figured it out. Snapchat, I've had a lot of colleagues use Snapchat in study abroad programs. So their students are actually putting together Snapchat stories as part of their study abroad experiences. YouTube, you can also have a private YouTube channel. This semester in my persuasion class, my students are doing public service announcements, and they will be uploading those PSAs to this YouTube channel to share it with their classmates. Instagram I've never used solely just alone, but I find it really useful to connect with other projects, and I'll show you some examples of that. LinkedIn, as I mentioned, I think is great when you're doing anything that really is preparing your students for the real world, for the workforce. I do a lot of blogging, and there are many blogging sites. I personally recommend WordPress. And lastly, there is an app that you may be aware of called GroupMe that students are real big on right now, and I highly recommend. It's great for students if they're doing group work. So whereas I used to just set up groups between my courses and they hardly ever use them at all, it's a free app that they can become a group on, and they'll connect with each other that way. Again, it's that level of comfortability where they just feel like they're sending someone a text rather than a more formalized way of communicating, and it seems to really be creating cohesiveness within groups. If you teach smaller classes, you can also be a part of the group. If you want a group of 40 people, knock yourselves out. That sounds like a nightmare to me. But when I do study abroad and I have just 10 students in me, we do a group me, and it's been very useful. It also helps continue the communication once the course is over. So one of the students that went to Ireland with me in May is running for homecoming queen, and we got a group me message from her yesterday morning to please go vote. So it really encourages them to kind of maintain those relationships past the end date of the classroom. Okay, so let me talk to you briefly about 4 different activities that I've done to use social media and to combine course content, right? The goal here for me always is to show students that learning doesn't end the second that the class is over, right? When they walk out that door and they don't think about it anymore. So this was an assignment that we did in Intro to Gender Studies, and we asked the students to blog about the ways that they incorporated feminism into their everyday lives, right? Because our students tend to think of feminism as some highfalutin political movement and not something that they can just do on a daily basis. These are some examples of the things that they might do. Call yourself a feminist and see how others respond. Quite a few students did that. We had some really funny responses. One student outed herself, if you will, to her grandparents, and her grandfather exclaimed that college had ruined her morals, and her grandmother begged her to not become an activist because those people live hard lives. Another student posted on his personal Facebook page, "Dear Facebook, I'm a feminist, ask me anything." And so it got these conversations going with friends and family outside of the classroom. So the idea was that they were blogging using WordPress, or a lot of them already had blogs that they just incorporated this assignment into, which was really cool. Then they would post those blogs into our closed Facebook group, so all of the students were reading each other's work, and then they were also encouraged to share their blogs in their personal Facebook groups, or personal Facebook accounts, which many of them did. And the response was overwhelming, that it really encouraged them to talk about class material to people not in the class. And one student in particular said that his roommate commented that her views on feminism had completely altered from reading his blog. So we really saw that as a very positive way to use social media to bring the course content outside of the classroom. Okay, yep. I also use blogging when we study abroad. And that is the majority of their grade. It's about 70% of their grade. The students are asked to connect course materials, so course readings, course lectures, and it's a gender and film class, so the films that they watch, to the site visit. So for instance, if we watch a film about internment in Ireland, and then we go and we actually visit the jail, they would then blog about that experience, and they use photos and videos and those sorts of things to supplement the blog. So we do have a few examples here. This is one student's blog on the murals of Belfast, and if you just sort of scroll down pretty quickly, you can see that there are many pictures here that she supplemented the work with. And they just do this throughout their entire trip. This is also fun because I encourage them to have their friends and family read these blogs while they're out of the country. So there's also a lot of personal fun stuff about food that they're eating and kind of other sorts of experiences as well. Yeah, perfect. And then my more technologically savvy students actually build websites, which are really quite impressive. And really kind of drive home what they're doing there, but also help them to build global awareness and creativity in their online communication and those sorts of things. So blogging I found to be incredibly useful. We can go to the Snap. Yeah, thank you. Okay, the SNAP challenge is an assignment or an activity that you may have heard of. SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And prior to incorporating it in my classroom, it actually was making the rounds on social media. So there were talks about cutting SNAP benefits, and so politicians and community leaders were encouraging others to try to live on the budget of a food stamp recipient for a week and to sort of talk about their experiences. So the learning objectives here are to encourage students to think critically about issues of inequality and diversity, to alter damaging racist, sexist, and classist stereotypes students may hold of food stamp recipients, to better understand the food nutrition experience of millions of low-income Americans, and most applicable here, to combine students' experience with social media into the physical classroom, thereby expanding the classroom space into students' everyday lives. So this assignment I did alongside, in my Intro to Gender Studies course, alongside my colleague at the University of San Diego who was teaching a health communication course. So both classes got the same assignment. And basically this is it. The food budget is $4.13 per person per day for all food and beverages. Now that's in Mississippi. It's about $28. The students in San Diego got $42. So there was already that kind of discussions about the discrepancies there. You are allowed to use coupons, and I will tell you personally that coupons have saved me every time I've done this challenge. You can't use any food that you've purchased prior to the challenge, but you can use like spices and oils and those sorts of things. We encourage our students, I don't know how much the encouragement works, to avoid alcohol and tobacco since you can't get those items with food stamps. We also really ask them to avoid accepting free food, and this is something they want to push back on because of course if you have SNAP benefits you can accept free food, but I think it would be really easy for our students to spend an entire week eating free food and beat the challenge that way, right? Even my friends are constantly like, what if I just leave some soup outside your door? No one will know, right? So that's why we kind of ask them to avoid that. And then those are the different types of foods that you can eat. The key here was that we had our students then join this closed Facebook group. So it was my students along with my colleague students. And in both cases, they discussed what experiences they were having. How were they feeling that day? What are the differences? They would post pictures from the grocery stores about how much things were cost so that we could see the kind of comparison of things in San Diego. It was also interesting because we talked about sort of the idea of a food desert versus in San Diego where they were having to take public transportation to get to the grocery store. So all this sort of different experiences in that sense. Students were required to post unique posts about what they were experiencing and then to reply to students at the other universities to get those conversations going. That semester I was teaching 2 sections of intro, and so to not overwhelm the San Diego students, only one class did the Facebook group and the other didn't. And I will tell you that using Facebook really made a huge difference in the quality of the students' experiences, right? In the other class, I saw my students twice that week, and we kind of debriefed during those 2 class periods. In the class on Facebook, it was constant. Every day, different times of day, people were commenting. And then we could also connect stories about, well, this is what the USDA says is the food pyramid, right? Or whatever they've changed it to now. So you could also, if a student raised a concern, or is this how many calories I should be eating, you could immediately click links and sort of send them that kind of information. So the learning was ongoing in that sense. And then lastly, this is a project that I called #Activism. For those of you who don't know, hashtag is just that little number, right, in front of a word or a phrase. It originated on Twitter, and the idea was that if you used hashtags, your tweet could potentially go viral because people searching for the hashtag could find your message. And so in my gender communication class, I asked the students to do essentially online social activism projects. And they had to develop unique hashtags. So one group came up with the hashtag housework is nonsense based on, they found a lot of stuff in like Cosmopolitan magazine and those sorts of publications that used sociobiological claims that men, for instance, don't have as good eyesight as women and therefore aren't as good at cleaning. And so they would find these kinds of stories and hashtag housework is nonsense. I thought that was just so creative. And then another hashtag Mr. and Mrs. Myth, which was all about these ideas of normative kind of marriage ideals and how we deal with marriage in this country. So they did the hashtag campaigns the entire semester. They had to, many of them were not on Twitter, so they had to join Twitter. They had to follow me on Twitter. And if you would click on the create a list, yeah. If you choose to do this, what you want to do is create a list. Yeah, that should be it right there. Okay, so what you'll see if you click right here on lists, perfect. This is so a student did it for me because I didn't know how. This is the list, gender communication, right? You then send an invite to all of your students in the class. They can join that list. The primary reason that you want to do this is that it will make your grading much easier. So as opposed to having to search for the hashtag or scroll through your Twitter to see if your students are posting, you can just go into the list and sort of count up their tweeting that day. They had to do a minimum of tweeting, retweeting. Part of the project was graded on how often they got retweeted, those sorts of things. So you definitely want to create a group. The other part of this project was that they then created Wiki Pages. And these Wiki Pages are great if you like to do group work because everyone can have access to it, right? It's a living document. And so you can work collaboratively, but you can modify and share content in these ways, just like you would if you go to Wikipedia, okay? And so it becomes this encyclopedia entry of your topic. And I should have one pulled up.
Okay.
There we go. Yep. No, this one, sorry. Yep. So this is just an example of one of the wiki pages that my students put together. Again, sort of incorporating information, pictures, videos, links, that sort of thing. So really kind of new ways to think about how they can do research and how they can incorporate writing into more contemporary modes of doing this kind of work. The last thing I want to talk very briefly about is an app called Poll Everywhere. If you are not yet familiar with Poll Everywhere, I just learned about it last week at a conference. It's incredible. Yeah, go ahead and click on it. It is a free service as long as you are polling fewer than 40 people. If you poll more than 40 people, there's a price, and it's an exorbitant price, so it's not worth it. But if you have classes under 40 students, it's worth it. So essentially what happens is you can ask any sort of question. They can be multiple choice, they can be ranking, they can be short answer, whatever you want. The students actually text you their answer in live time. It gathers the data. So like I answered, that's why there's only 100%, right? But if I asked all of you to pull out your phones right now and answer this question, it would collaborate, it would gather this data in live time and give us this bar graph. So this can be really great, especially if you're dealing with sensitive subjects that maybe your students don't feel particularly comfortable about. The person who taught me about this at a conference teaches a class, or teaches a module in one of her classes on sexuality and shame and the things that we tend to feel shameful about in our sex lives, and then asked questions, and suddenly everybody realized that maybe people, what they thought was shameful is far more normative than they had previously thought, right? So it's a way to kind of see this data generated about your colleagues in a way that that is visual, right? That can be really useful. So those are just some of the ways that I'm using social media in my class. I'm happy to provide more details or to share full assignments with any of you. And I know we'll have a Q&A later, so you can ask questions if you'd like to then. Thanks.
I'm Keith Harper, and as Kristen said, I run the social media site for the Center for Distance Education. We have 6 social media accounts. And we use social media slightly different than Dr. Rouse because as she's engaging students in the classroom, we're trying to use social media in a totally different way. And one of the ways that we're trying to use is for recruiting. We have degree programs that we try to highlight, recognition of our staff and our students and alumni and faculty, and then also our recruiting events we try to promote. So here is a snapshot of our Pinterest page where our in-house graphic designer had designed each of our programs as a special image, and they're linked back to our program so that students can help find them easily. And then the next, we also can alter these images, and we use them on our social media sites like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter to tell more about the programs and let students know that, hey, we have these programs online, you know, click here for more information, find out more about this program. And for our recognition, any faculty or staff or students, or like right here on the right is one of our own, Joy Bailey, and she was nominated for the Zacharias Distinguished Staff Award. And we like to promote that for our students because we want you to know that, hey, the faculty that's winning this award are the same faculty that teach our online classes, and our staff here are getting these awards. They're great people to work with. Next. Recruiting events. We try to promote our events beforehand so that way we can show students, hey, we're going to be here at this time, come by and see us and talk to us about online programs or online degrees. Or so on the right here is both of these are one of my favorite. On the right is Evan, and he's in Washington, D.C., and he sent that, and it was beforehand. I was like, hey, look where we are, Happy Maroon Friday, come see us at Mississippi on the Mall. And then also on the left is one of our distance coordinators, Valerie, and she's at a summer conference, and they had a really cool photo op, and it looked fun and engaging, and she could take pictures with any students that were there or colleagues. Another way we use social media is to relay information to our current students. We have how-to tutorials that we put together, dates, university dates and deadlines for students, workshops that the university library puts together for them, and then also campus events. Here's a screenshot of our how-to tutorials. This is on our YouTube page. We have everything from how to register for classes, how to find out your tuition and fees, how to pay a payment on your account, because unfortunately our students don't get that daily interaction with their colleagues or their faculty or their staff to know, oh, this is coming up, this is the deadline. So we try to post that information. You got that on, this is the last day to add a class, drop a course, register for classes, and we try to share these videos. If it's registration's coming up, we share our video that says, hey, this is how you register. Next one. And workshops. The University Library is really good about having on-campus workshops for our students that are free, and you can go learn how to do Excel or how to do Photoshop, Illustrator. They also provide online workshops, and that's perfect for our distance students that don't get that experience. They don't have maybe a local library. And so we share that information so that way they can register for the class and learn from wherever they're at how to do Excel. On the right is one of my favorites. I try to go to any campus events and take pictures or videotape it and show our students what's happening on campus so they can get that connection between on-campus life and being wherever they're at. So on the right is the Center for Entrepreneurship and Outreach. They had their grand reveal of their suite in McCool Hall. And so I went to it and I asked one of their organization members if they didn't mind doing a live tour. And he was really great. He's like, sure. So I live streamed this on Facebook so that way our distance students could walk through the tour just as I was. And they got to see really neat things about what they offered, what resources were there, and if they ever have any questions or have a brilliant idea, they can contact them and get help on getting their ideas started and going. Brand awareness is one of our last ways that we use social media, not only for Center for Distance Education, but also because we also represent Mississippi State University. We use hashtags. We use our promotions, and we use any kind of student engagement to increase that. Our hashtags we use, Distance at State, that's our logo, and we try to use that anywhere we have, and just like Dr. Riles mentioned, the students can click on it. Maybe their friends are hashtagging Distance at State, and they can click on it. Then they find us, and they see a whole community of stuff we're doing and how fun it looks at Mississippi State. And we use the hashtags for Mississippi States. We ring true, Maroon Friday, Hell State. We also, promotions during baseball season, and sometimes during football season, we use our Hell State from Any State coasters. And we promote those throughout. And so we just let our students know that, hey, our coasters are at this baseball game. Y'all go pick them up, take them home with you. That way they have them at home, and so maybe their friends will see it. And we use promotions to get our name out there. Student engagement, we have, on the right, we have Joy Bailey. She took a picture, she gave a tour. These are meteorology students that are on campus for their capstone course. And she snuck them, I don't know if she snuck them, but she got them onto the football field. We'll use our words smart here. She got them onto the football field and gave them a selfie. And so we used that picture and we promoted the meteorology program, and then also these students were able to share it and like it, and then their friends saw it. And so anything with our own students in it is, gets better appearance on social media. And we also have the students that tweet at us or tag us in it. This one on the bottom is recently from this semester, and she's happy that she just passed her last final, and now she's a meteorologist, and she tagged us in it. And so timely response is always what I try to do. So I retweeted her, told her congratulations, we're proud of you, and you know, who doesn't like that recognition from a faculty member or from their program or whichever. So we just kind of let them know that, hey, we're listening to you and we like your feedback. You know, keep tagging us in your stuff. And so I just want to finish up with, you know, like Kristen said, that if you are a distance professor or you teach a distant program or whichever, if you know an on-campus event in your department, you know, let me know. I can come and do whatever I can to get it out there, so that way our distant students that are in that program can watch it or can know what's going on or can feel like they're a part of it too. If you have anything that you need to post, maybe it's a deadline or maybe it's a, you know, something pertaining to your class, we can post that on social media. Just send me the information and I'll be glad to post it and share that for you. And that way they get that other sense of communication besides just an email. So if you have any questions, we'll answer.